This is WJZ Breaking News.
As we come on the air, we're getting a new smoky look over the scene of a brush fire in Baltimore County that is still blazing through an Owings Mills park. Hello, everybody. I'm Nikki Zizaza.
And I'm Denise Cokwell. Welcome to those of you watching on CBS News Baltimore and on WJZ TV. We've been following this fire all afternoon. It went to 8 alarms and people had to be evacuated.
Yes, and in that area there aren't any hydrants, so that's why these firefighters have had to work overtime. Well, WJZ has been on the scene of this fire just a few minutes after.
Yeah, it's at Soldiers Delight Park, again in Owings Mills. Kelsey Kushner's live there now. And what's an update, Kelsey?
Denise, Nikki, well, what we know so far right now is that Baltimore County Fire and the Baltimore County Police Department did go up in the air in a chopper to survey the area, survey that damage, and see just how much of that fire has been contained. We also know that the National Guard has stepped in with assistance to kind of dump some water on those flames. But take a look at some of the cell phone video that we have been getting from neighbors. You can really see just how big that fire really was. Firefighters say that some of those flames were reported to be about 150 feet tall. That fire grew to an unprecedented 8-alarm fire. At last update, Baltimore County Fire says that it was about 40% contained. Crews all over central Maryland were responding to help battle the flames. They had over 200 personnel on scene. Dozens of homes were evacuated, at least 29 homes. They were headed to Franklin High School, where the Red Cross is there and helping neighbors if they need it. But again, Baltimore County Fire says firefighters, they are facing a number of problems when it comes to getting this fire under control, like the dry conditions. Take a listen to what they had to say.
This is a non-hydrant area, so there's no fire hydrant, so it makes it very difficult to shuttle water in on our trucks and get control of the fire. The fire began back in the Deer Park Ward's Chapel area, and as you can see behind me, we're coming towards the Berryman's Road, Berryman's Lane and Church Lane area. So that's quite a significant area. We're just fortunate at this time I can't report that any homes have burned.
Now, there have been no reported injuries. There was a hiker that was missing, but Baltimore County Fire Department says that that hiker has been found safe. Reporting live, Kelsey Kushner for WJZ.
All right, thank you, Kelsey. There are road closures in the area because of this very large fire. Deer Park Road and Dolefield Road, Deer Park Road and Ward's Chapel Road, Deer Park Road and Berryman Lane. They are all closed. Avoid that area for the next several hours if you can, and count on WJZ and CBS Baltimore to keep you updated on this developing story.
You all ready? Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out here this morning. I appreciate your patience while we were getting ready. We wanted to make sure we had the most recent information to give to all of you. As you can see, there's a number of important people behind me. County Executive Johnny Olszewski is here. Fire Chief Joanne Rund is here, and some other members of our command staff are here to assist with this briefing. We're going to start with kind of a rundown and summary of this entire incident. So if you'll bear with me, I'll go ahead and do that, starting in a kind of linear fashion from when it began yesterday. So yesterday, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, our units in Baltimore County Fire were dispatched to a report of a brush fire here in the Soldiers Delight area in Owings Mills. It's the 5100 block of Deer Park Road is the actual incident address. The first arriving units found a very large, fast-spreading fire. They knew immediately this was not a typical brush fire. We get a lot of brush fires this time of year because the conditions are right for it. Most of them, you know, are 4 or 5 acres or so. This was clearly going to be something different that we were not typically used to dealing with. So they immediately called for additional assistance. Eventually, this escalated to an 8-alarm fire. That is a huge incident. To find something similar in size and scope, you have to go back to the 1970s when we had a major fire and explosion at the Suburban Propane facility up in Upperco. But it has literally been that long since we've had anything of this magnitude. 8 alarms meant we had more than 200 personnel here. This was a multi-jurisdictional event. We had mutual aid from every single jurisdiction surrounding us, as well as Frederick County, the Maryland Air National Guard, the Pennsylvania Department of Forestry, Baltimore City, Harford County, and all the rest of our regional partners. They were all here. We did an emergency on-call for career and volunteer personnel because we knew we were going to need every available person to help fight this fire. By, I would say, sometime before midnight last night, our firefighters had this fire contained, about 95% contained. They remained here throughout the night, putting out hot spots, monitoring the damage. As you can see, we are still here today, and we expect to be here throughout the day. At some point, the scene will be turned over to the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, who will remain on scene until there's no longer a need for that. The parameters of this fire, or let's talk about the damage. So there's 700 acres that have been burned. The parameters are roughly, most of that is in the Soldier's Delight area. The damage area, the area of burn extends eastward up toward Church Road and Campitelli Court. So it's a very large 700-acre fire, very unusual for this part of the country. In terms of damage, we had 2 outbuildings that were destroyed. There have been no homes destroyed, although we are doing, we have firefighters that are riding around doing checks of homes to see if any have been damaged. From the beginning of a scene of an incident like this, that is obviously the priority, is protection of lives and property. And when this thing was really going yesterday afternoon, there was real fear that people's homes could be affected. So it's a real credit to the career and volunteer firefighters and all of our partners who were here that we were able to prevent that kind of damage from happening. There have been no injuries except one minor firefighter injury. So that was very good news. Yesterday, there were 29 homes in the affected area that were evacuated. I believe a lot of those people are still not back in their homes. We expect them to begin to start coming back as the assessments are made that it's safe for them to return. We, as I said earlier, expect to remain here throughout the day. There are additional airdrops of water that are planned sometime this morning, early this afternoon. But we will be here until we are confident that the threat of additional fire from this incident has passed. I think that is pretty much everything I had to brief you on. We'll take questions in just a minute, but before we get to that, I want to bring Fire Chief Joanne Rund to the microphone to talk about what happened here.
Thank you, Elise, and thank you, partners, for being here. I want to take one moment to thank our citizens. Your cooperation in helping us evacuate you was critical. That is how we were able to save as much as we were able to save, is because you helped us, you actually cooperated with us and allowed us to get you out of the area. I also need to thank all of our partners that we have had, our volunteer system, our Air National and our Army National Guard, our forestry division. We could not have done that without you. They really guided us in areas that were really critical and deep, thick, very thick for our firefighters to get into, and we don't typically do that. Our airdrop partners are here now, so please forgive the noise. So it's very important that I express as your fire chief that I'm very thankful for the evacuation efforts. Our team did just a phenomenal job. We had 200 pieces of fire equipment here operating on scene with countless amount of personnel, both career and volunteer. And that effort itself is what helped us mitigate this for any further damage for our citizens. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. County Executive?
Good morning. I think it's still morning. I know it's been a long day for our men and women who have been courageously fighting this fire. As was mentioned, this is really unprecedented, and so I want to echo Chief Runn's sentiments that we are grateful to our careerists, our volunteers, all of our partners. This was truly an all-hands-on-deck effort that required friends and partners from Baltimore City, Howard, Anne Arundel, Frederick, Carroll, Pennsylvania, our friends in Maryland Forestry, National Guard, who's doing airdrops as we speak. We just want to thank everybody for their efforts. I think it's a real testament to the professionalism and the dedication of our folks that we were able to avoid, as best we know, any major damage to homes. Save for the one minor injury to a firefighter. It's really incredible when you consider the size and scope of what they were tackling today. So I just want to express our appreciation again to the men and women of the fire department, the other agencies who were a part of this, both within Baltimore County but also across the state and even outside the state. So hat tip to them. This will be active. We're going to make sure we get this completely under control before we open things back up, but just really proud of the work of our men and women in the fire department. Grateful for our partners who stepped up to make this happen. Hopefully this is another several decades before anyone sees something like this again, but the fact that they were ready and for something so unprecedented, I think speaks volumes to the professionalism of both our team but also our partners. So just want to express our gratitude again. Thanks.
Does anybody have any questions while we're all here together? Okay. Skip?
Each helicopter drops about 250 gallons. I'm not real sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Each helicopter drop carries about 250 gallons. I'm not 100% sure on how many drops they made. I would imagine about 10 last night.
10 to 12.
Roughly 10 to 12 drops last night. We're not sure how much we're going to need today. It's going to depend on how the weather goes and what's going on. So.
Well, I was in high school in the 1970s. Skip, would you like to talk about that?
As was stated earlier, we normally deal with acreage of about 5, maybe 10 acres. We're dealing with 700 acres that we don't usually have in this county, so that makes this very unusual for us. More fires like this you see on the West Coast. We don't normally see them here. So this is the largest fire I've ever seen in Baltimore County as far as spreading in the acreage.
Any idea how it sparked?
It's under investigation at this time.
What typically causes a brush fire that you fight?
It could be anything. A spark could be natural in nature, and it could be a spark here from there. We just don't want to make any speculation of what this one was caused by. We're not going to allow them to go back in there into their homes until we feel it's safe for them to return.
Chief, could you speak about, I don't know if your fleet is the right word, but I know you have the big fire engines, but what sort of vehicles do you have that can take water to somewhere that the big engines can't? Yeah, what is your...
We have specialized vehicles that we use, ATVs, where that we have specialized pickup trucks that carry water on them that can go into the back terrain that assist us as far as attacking the fires there. But we also deployed our engines. Luckily, we're in areas where we could deploy our engines where we get large amounts of water to there, and we use our hose when we could.
And I'm sorry, so your name and title?
Deputy Chief Francis, CIS. DePaula, D-I, capital P-A-U-L-A.
I know you mentioned there was over 200 pieces of equipment that was used. Can you kind of talk about some of the equipment that we don't see, other than the water and the tanks that he mentioned?
Sure. So in addition to the ATVs that we have behind us, we have brush trucks, as he was talking about, that are pickup trucks with hose lines on them. So if you think about your hose that you have at your house that you use as you're watering your gardens, we have larger versions of that on pickup trucks. In addition to that, we also have what's called tankers, and those tankers will carry anywhere from 2,500 gallons to 5,000 gallons, and we will bring them in and set them along roads like this to supply whatever units we have going into the brush area to be able to get that water supply in. And then we will just continue to rotate those units in, and the fire engines carry a significant amount of water as well. Nothing other than the average. We've got to make sure that we keep what is currently burning under control, and we will work with the forestry division to make sure that we keep the parameters and keep it within the confines of where it is. Yes, we have forestry who's in with backhoes and with bulldozers, in addition to personnel that are going in with rakes and hose lines, etc., to actually dig out those areas and work out those areas. And there's other things I'm sure that I am not familiar with.
Basically, what we're doing for forestry is we have bulldozers that we're using to put in what's called fire lines, where we're taking the fuels down to bare mineral soil that won't burn, and that's going to contain the fire and get it in check. And then we're going to make it the perimeter safe. After that, the center of the fire might smoke and burn for a week, 2 weeks. That's perfectly fine as long as it's not outside those lines. So we'll be back and forth until the fire's out. We'll be checking on it every day, 2-3 times a day. We'll have a presence here until the fire's completely out.
Sir, your name and title, please.
Gilbert Wagner. I'm fire specialist with the Maryland Forest Service. WAGNER. Yes, there are. None have been conducted this year yet. We do burn usually in the fall and the spring in Soldiers Delight. When we do, we bring in the crew and the manpower to keep it in check. But we have not been burning here yet this year. So. Well, there is until we get some significant rain. Right now, I believe I looked at the weather departures, and the eastern shore where I'm from is down about 5, almost 6 inches of rain for the year. So until we get some significant rain, there's always the chance. It happened yesterday. It could happen next week, depending on the weather. Weather plays a big part in fire behavior and fire spread. So. Yeah. Yeah, just watch outdoor burning, watch cigarettes, any type of sparks. As soon as you see one, call immediately because you see how fast they can spread. Dial 911 immediately, get the people going. Just watch where you put your ashes and all kinds. Watch motorcycles, dirt bikes, spark arresters, any of that. The only true natural cause of wildfire in the state of Maryland is lightning. Other than that, it's all human caused. Whether it's accidental or somebody trying to burn something down, it's all human other than lightning. So.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
One thing I just want to close with, regarding cause and investigation, I just want to make it clear the fire department is not the investigatory body here. I believe it's state police in this case, but I'll have to verify that and let you all know that for certain. Does anyone know for certain who's the investigatory body?
The Forest Service has the jurisdiction over it, and we're working with the State Fire Marshal's office to determine a cause area of investigation. We're working with them. But ultimately, the Forest Service is responsible for investigating the fire for origin and cause.
Is that because it's on state parkland, or that's just...
No, that's just because it's out in the woods. The State Fire Marshal's office specializes in buildings and structure fires, and we specialize in the wildland. So we work hand in hand with those, and we are working with them to come up with a cause and area of origin with it. So,
Thank you all very much.
Firefighters are still spraying down what were once bales of recycled paper. The Office of Emergency Management tells me that firefighters will be here through the night, possibly into the morning, trying to get to the deepest parts of this fire.
I'm working here 16 years. Everybody here is like a family. 15 minutes, it's all gone.
John Romano's home away from home burned to the ground Tuesday afternoon as a massive fire tore through reliable paper recycling in Jersey City.
It was a very windy day, and it just took off. And within the next half hour, the fire went all the way down to the light rail building. On the other side of the tracks, it's pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Flying embers resulted in the fire spreading further north.
Jersey City officials say the fire sparked around 2:45 p.m. The high winds and dry air created the ideal atmosphere for fire to spread, reaching 7 alarms at its peak.
In my 40-plus years, we've only had one, and that was way back in the 80s. It's highly unusual to get a fire to that extent, but we've gotten calls from our counterparts over New York City, about the black smoke.
Winds spread the fire along the New Jersey Turnpike and paralyzed the Hudson-Bergen light rail. Thankfully, no one was injured.
A lot of people got hurt today. Not physically, just in the whole scheme of things. It's heartbreaking, in my opinion, for what I've seen. This has been my home for a long time.
And it's unclear what started this fire, but an arson team is now investigating the cause.
Weather camera in Pennsylvania capturing the moment part of a chocolate factory exploded. Take a look at this. Fox affiliate WTXF capturing exclusive images of the R.M. Palmer Candy Company going up in flames. The blast killing 2 people and leaving 9 missing. This happened yesterday afternoon in the town of West Reading. Fire crews are reporting at least 8 people are in the hospital. The extent of their injuries still unknown this morning. Also not known exactly what caused the explosion, but employees in the factory reported a fire minutes before.
Now to a large industrial fire in Indiana that is expected to continue burning and spewing harmful fumes for days. So that is not good. The fire began on Tuesday. It's already burned an estimated 13 acres at a plastic recycling facility in the eastern part of the state. Cameron Riddle of our Indianapolis station, that's WTTV, has been following this in Richmond for us. Cameron, good morning. I'm glad to see you're taking precautions this morning.
Gail, good morning. The air here is the concern. The fire behind us is contained, according to the Richmond fire chief, but the concern now, as it continues to burn, is all of the toxic chemicals that are flowing through the air.
This has been a challenging fire just because it's plastics.
Plumes of smoke have consumed the city of Richmond as the industrial fire enters its 3rd day. Public safety officials say their main concern is the hazardous, potentially carcinogenic particles spreading in the smoke.
If they're breathed in, can cause all kinds of respiratory problems, burning of the eyes, tightening of the chest. It could aggravate asthma.
Air quality concerns have forced firefighters to battle the flames from a distance and led to evacuation orders for as many as 2,000 people.
This is no joke. Chemicals like this and the burning of the plastic.
The business owner is responsible for this mess, responsible for the disaster, and responsible for putting everyone in danger.
Richmond's mayor placed blame squarely on the recycling facility. Documents from the city's Unsafe Building Commission reveal the business came under scrutiny in 2019, with one commissioner detailing boxes stacked all the way up to the ceiling, referring to some materials as a fire hazard and pointing to no sprinkler system. A Wayne County court later supported a cleanup order for the facility, calling the buildings in question a hazard to public health and dangerous. Richmond's fire chief on Wednesday appeared to suggest those conditions may have remained as his team worked to evacuate the scene and put out the flames.
Our access was very hampered by the rubbish and the piles of plastic that were surrounding the complex.
Now, in those documents from 2019, the business owner claimed that the building's fire suppression system was actually broken when the previous owner left. CBS News has reached out to that business owner for comment, but so far, we've had no luck on a response. Tony?
Cameron Riddle masked up for us in Indiana. Cameron, thank you very much. Do stay safe.
State of emergency extended in Palestine, Ohio after this disastrous train derailment. Multiple explosions causing massive fires lighting up the night sky, burning for hours Saturday.
No big deal.
Another investigation is underway in Ohio after a cargo train has derailed for a second time in a month. That's right. Officials say about 20 cars of the 212-car train went off the tracks in the city of Springfield on Saturday evening. Now, it's owned by Norfolk Southern Railway. That's the same company that owned the freight train that was transporting toxic materials when it derailed in East Palestine last month.
A runaway train derailing in the Mojave Desert, causing a mangled mess. A bird's eye view of the wreckage showing a large area of the desert blackened after Union Pacific officials say 55 cars and 2 locomotives derailed.
A huge fire at an egg farm in eastern Connecticut.
This all happened on Saturday at Hillendale Farm in Basra. This is video right here of fire and smoke just ravaging a large chicken coop there. And today we learned the farm lost 100,000 chickens in that fire.
Train derailment. First responders going door to door to evacuate the small town of Raymond, Minnesota, after 22 cars went off the tracks there.
Now to another massive fire, this one at a manufacturing facility in south suburban Chicago Heights. It sent flames and thick black smoke billowing into the air.
It started this morning at the Morgan Lee factory near 11th and Washington.
Also staying on top of a massive fire this morning that scorched thousands of pots at a plant nursery supply store in Osceola County.
At least 2 acres of pallets holding thousands of plastic pots caught fire.